We live? Welcome to Thinking with Sam.
Yep.
Because we all know who the brains of the family is.
The good news part is the only editing I do to this is at the beginning. So this is a convenient timing.
You cut that out, I quit. I'm never coming on your stupid show again.
So we are fresh off.
Gross, I can hear you chewing.
Things you need for a podcast.
There we go. Crackers.
Crunchy crackers.
All right. Now I can't hear you anymore. You're good. I was just trying to save you. You're welcome.
So we're fresh off of Thanksgiving week. And for our family this year, we all did it alone because Sam canceled it for us.
Oh my gosh. And they were thanking me because one of my brothers, they both ended up in Florida. So I am sorry that I gave you an excuse
So I had
to
this
take a
delightful
vacation.
Thanksgiving planned. We're going to go to Sam's and we're going to have steaks and lobsters. And about a week ago, Sam goes, "Hey guys, I'm going to Texas."
In that voice, that's exactly what I sound like.
And that's it.
Yep.
And so Thanksgiving got canceled for our whole family.
It was like one of those things where it was hard for everybody to accept, but ultimately you guys all were happy.
So we all have these illusions of like the Grinch that sold Christmas and eventually he comes around and his heart grows.
No.
Did not happen here.
I'm just so validated in my decision. Like my kids won their race that we drove to Texas for. We won money. I didn't have to deal with you guys.
I ended up buying a vacation and had to spend all this money on
in the
it.
slowest real estate market in a decade.
Yes. Gone.
It was worth it. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
we had a good time.
It was good.
Anyways, today we wanted to come on here today and talk about all the weird ways that we've gotten business.
Finding clients in challenging markets.
Or just in like when you're getting started or whatever. Because a lot of these stories that we're going to discuss are like, what did you do like to get like weird stuff to happen?
Right. So the topic for this started because it's been really hard to pull deals together the last 90 days.
I'd say that it's hard to find buyers.
Yeah. Whatever. And so like we've just been like trying everything. And then it's been compounded because in August, we ended a decade-long partnership with Zillow Group.
Yep.
And that I could make a whole podcast about that, but that was
Let's do it.
All right. Well, the next one will be about why we quit Zillow.
No, let's do it now.
Oh, we'll talk about it now. Okay, so Zillow has been phenomenal for helping us grow our business, but the company is like morally bankrupt. And so it was just this weird, we always knew like we were riding this train into a cliff and eventually we'd have to quit. But the employees up there are like groomed and coached to lie to their partners. Like it was so crazy.
So
like,
hold on, square one. Where did our Zillow partnership start? What was it like?
so I started in 2012. So it literally was a decade-long partnership.
Yep.
And I mean, you used to pay money and they'd tell you how many leads you'd get and you'd get that. And it was phenomenal.
And they'd do whatever they could to support you to sell that consumer a house.
Right. And like you could build up reviews on your profile and you would get the leads from your own listings, which I mean, that's not much to ask when you're paying, we were paying tens of thousands a month for our partnership with Zillow. It wasn't like $300. And then it just slowly over the years, they're corporate companies, so they're responsible to their shareholders and just continuing to try to increase profitability, which is fine. But the way that they did that was by slowly trying to squeeze out their partners and squeeze as much out of them while delivering as little as possible to get, the pie to basically grow. They just try to keep you happy enough to keep your money. But slowly they would make changes that would make the value proposition worse and worse. And the thing that bothered me is they were never upfront about what they were doing.
So the first thing that they did is when they first brought out their iBuyer program.
Right.
Is that they took half the leads, all of the, the list and buy leads and just took them off, cut the piece of the pie and pushed them over to the.
Right. So like we would used to get a lot of seller leads or people that wanted to sell their properties. And when they started buying homes themselves, they took all those from us and gave them there's one particular broker in Minnesota who got the whole iBuyer program.
Yep.
Instead of them being smart, like in breaking it off regionally, like this team specializes in listing in this area and they do the most here. We're going to give them to those guys. And they gave them all to some agent mass team in Minneapolis.
Which was a betrayal to their consumers because they were trying to rip them off and try to buy their house for less than it's worth. And it was a betrayal to their partners who had been coming alongside them.
They had always said, we're going to give you the local expert because you purchased by zip code. And then suddenly they were giving all the listing leads to somebody who was locationally irrelevant to most of their consumers.
And that's how real estate is bought and sold, is that you really want to make sure you're finding a partner who's very, very hyper local and they know about the community.
Yeah. So that happened. And then I said, hey, this is happening. I know it's happening because I'm hearing from other teams that they're getting these leads now, or this team in particular. And it was just always like, no, that's not what's happening. Like, that's definitely, we're not doing that. And then like 6 months later, when they eventually got to the point where they couldn't lie about it anymore, they'd be like, oh yeah, but here's what we're doing for you. And that whole process of like lying to you, gaslighting you, literally, like, it was horrible. I don't know how you can get people to work for you who lie on your behalf.
For you.
Like, it was unbelievable. Probably because I would guess they're commissioned based on attrition.
Yep.
Or like what their total advertising spend is. So like they'll just say whatever they can to
And they're
keep
always
you.
on the chopping block.
Right. It just was unbelievable. So it's just like constant lies. So eventually, like, we were still making good money on Zillow, but we're just like, we can't partner with this company anymore. We got to figure it out.
So iBuyer went bankrupt.
Yeah.
They don't call it. They say they shut it down, but it lost freaking hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, it went bankrupt.
Yeah. Their
So
their CEO
that.
is completely irrational.
So they shuttered that, and so all of a sudden, all these seller leads show up back on the table, and instead of coming to their partners, what did they unveil?
They did what was it, Zillow Flex?
Yeah, they do the Zillow Flex that we were eternally talked out of.
Yep. You don't want that.
So all they did is they took another couple of teams and they put them on 30% splits, 70-30 splits, where Zillow would retain 30% of the revenue, which is unbelievably more profitable for Zillow, and then shuttered them to an individual team who would have to work all over the place. So then again, you're giving customers agents who have no idea what they're doing.
In random areas.
And then just continue to degrade our lead flow and our lead quality.
And the consumer experience, honestly.
Correct.
Has just gone down.
Yep.
And now I've heard that they're actually increasing their split to the Zillow Flex teams, obviously, because they have to needs to keep being more profitable. So now the realtors that work on those teams are taking home like tiny amounts of money.
Nothing.
So it was to the point where it's like, we're either going to like work for Zillow because that's the direction this is going. Like, anybody on that, like, pretty soon they're not going to be ABC Realty. They're just going to be Zillow.
Yep.
That's what Zillow wants.
And we've seen this happen before. We happened with relocation companies. When we first got into the business, they were like a 20% or 25% split, and now they're somewhere around like 45 to 50%. They just keep
going for more.
They keep taking more and more and more. And what are you going to do when you're so connected? And so we saw that, and we said, first of all, our program was no longer profitable.
Right. No, it wasn't. It was like the profitability was based on what's the future value of that client. So basically, we were doing the purchase or the initial sale for free and then banking on referrals and repeat business in the future, which is, you don't want to look at a lead generation source like that.
In general, in business, your advertisement should be repaying itself at a minimum on a month-to-month basis, right? Because you don't want to be running into a deficit over time. It doesn't make any sense. And so Zillow actually started turning into a deficit where you spend $1, you might get 50 cents back per month.
Right.
And if you're in marketing or in general, if you're looking to start your business, you should be looking at your advertisement spend should be paying for itself in a 30-day, revolving door. So if you spend $1, you should at least be getting $1 back per month.
Right.
So it can just run itself.
I was 1,000% convinced that internally they had figured out who their hottest leads were. They have all that technology, and they were funneling those to the Flex teams and then funneling the other leads that were less qualified to their zip code paying members. Like, I would be willing to almost bet my life that was happening because the lead quality went down so dramatically.
Yep.
And they have every means to say, okay, with their AI, they can say this person's hot. This person's going to buy. We're going to give them to this team because it's more profitable. And then we're going to keep our zip code buyers by giving them junk leads, but at least we're giving them stuff.
Yeah. So Zillow has somewhere between like 98 and 90% saturation. So that means if you're in the United States, they've taken up to, close to 100% of market share in those marketplaces.
For people shopping online.
Yep, generally. Realtor.com is in there, but they lost the bag a long time ago. And it's 99% Zillow. So all they're trying to do is get everybody into their ecosystem. That's what iBuying was about. That's what Zillow Mortgage, which actually is crashing right now, was all about. Is that their whole idea is to get everybody in the consumer stuck in their ecosystem, so therefore they can take all of the profits.
Yep.
And we decided to jump out of that and to find our own lead sources elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. So,
which has actually been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we that was a really long story to talk about how we arrived with a really difficult fall in business. So we ended that, which was kind of a big part of our business. And then on top of that, the market shifted dramatically in a short amount of time. So it was just like boom, boom. Right.
Yep. It's been relentless interest rate hikes, which is what it is, because we're not in a. People like to say that, I mean, we're probably the closest form of capitalism or free markets that you can talk about, but it's 100% government intervention.
Yeah.
Right? When you have the federal government or the Federal Reserve come in and say, hey, we're going to smash these markets and we're going to do it just because.
Well, it wasn't because it's their way to get all their COVID money back that they printed. They're just taking it back.
It's just, but it's all fake and it's all temporary.
Right.
Because you're causing. We're getting off topic here. We're digressing, but when you stop the housing market from building new properties and new inventory, you just create a supply and demand issue that's going to have to be dealt with in the future. So what I've been telling people now is that like the people who buy between now and 2025 are going to be very, very happy with themselves. The people who wake up in 2026 or in 2027 and they look back and they're going to think the same thing like after the last housing recession.
Why didn't I do something?
Why didn't I buy? So be very, very careful to wait too long. Make sure you're buying, properties that match your budget, but for frickin' A, don't wait too long.
Right.
So we're going to talk about some stories about how we used to get business and how we're getting business nowadays. And like, these are just fun.
Yeah. Well, this story started because we put together 3 sales last week. Jay and I did on our way to Texas. And Mike's like, sweet, where'd you get them? Like I was going to like tell you like my secret for this market.
Stupid.
I'm like, okay, one came from a Facebook post I made.
That's good.
And the other one came from, I was literally like searching tax records for foreclosures. And I was like, hey, I think we have this person in our database. I like go, and if you're in foreclosure, I'll search. We have 50,000 leads in our database. So like if it's in Carver County, there's a chance it's in there usually.
Good chance.
Like this person's in foreclosure. I'm going to look their name up, put it in there. I'm like, sweet, they're in here. Had Jay call them and she's like, oh, that's my ex. He still lives there, but I left his ass and I need to buy a house. It's like, sick. Let's do it. Yep. So she went and bought a house, and then the other one was just a listing. But I was like, oh man, there's so many weird stories.
That things just happen. And that's, so generally speaking, where this comes from, there's that's actually Google spend and then Facebook lead gen. So they seem like crazy, but they're not really that crazy. You just have to do the thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And then hold on. I wrote
right. Because it was us having that database that we've been building.
Correct.
That led to that opportunity. And then the other one is, I mean, I have like 3,200 people on my Facebook now. So it's
it's a lot.
It's a pretty good group of people that I can advertise to freely. And I was just like, hey, we've got this property. Anybody interested? And it was just like DM.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Using your resources. And you have to be really careful with your social media nowadays. As by the way, I lost one of my accounts last year. I got hacked and got wiped out. So make sure that you're also converting these people over to email and getting them into your bag, because when you're looking at the Facebooks, Instagrams, YouTubes, you can just get shut down erroneously for no reason. And there's nobody to call. FYI, think about that.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up. Yep. So, but I mean, here's the idea. And here's the concept that if you're a realtor that's struggling or you're new, the concept that you need to get from this whole podcast today is real estate is all about putting yourself in a position to get lucky a lot.
Correct.
So it's not that there's this one lever you pull. It's how many actions can I take, even if they feel like they're not doing anything. The amount of actions I take to build my business or find business puts me in the position to get lucky more than others.
Correct. I actually have a story
and that's
about
real
that.
estate. Yep.
So as Sam said, let's talk about how we get leads. And I went, oh my gosh, like I've got this really cool story of like a significant amount of business that came from it. So a while ago, we advertised for these door knocking like mailers where we'd mail to like a community, and the people that clicked through the link would like give them a hyperlink and you could get their address. And it was awesome. These don't really work anymore because people are wised up. But so, you'd send a selling form to Mr. Seller, and Mr. Seller would grab that URL into the internet, and then it would say, hey, X, Y, and Z address.
Responded to your postcard.
Yep. So you just go and you'd go door knock that door. So I did that. I got 3 pings, and I went and I door knocked 3 of them. And one of them was like, yeah, we are looking to sell. Come on over. Let's sell your house. And so I door knocked that lead, signed their listing, and they told me they were looking for 1-level living housing in Waconia. And at the time, and I know Waconia, Minnesota really, really well. I know there's only probably 100 houses that are previously owned that fit that reserve. So I said, F it, I'm just going to door knock all of them. So I went and door knocked all 3 of the neighborhoods, and there's 3 or maybe 4 neighborhoods, every single one of them. And I ended up uncovering 3 other listing opportunities and 3 showings just created from that. And of that, they wrote an offer on one, we lost one, but I ended up door knocked one of the gals, and she said, no, we're not looking to sell. And I said, all right, great. Well, if you talk with one of your neighbors, here's my card. And later that night, I get an email from her husband, said, hey, you door knocked. My wife said, we're not looking to sell, but we actually are. We've actually already picked out the house we want to buy. Come list our house and come sign the contract on the new build.
Just like boom.
And so one door knocking led to another door knocking. There's 3 deals right there. And then those folks actually called me back again. And I sold their house again, bought another house from them. And then they also referred me to their folks. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 sides.
Hold on. 5, 6 sides, 7 sides.
From what?
From one door knocking
worth of effort.
And probably spent 3 or 4 hours. And that's just in the last 4 years.
Yeah. So that reminded me of a story Jay had where he door knocked like a really expensive strip on the lake. Just like had a conversation with a guy and it was like, yeah, whatever. Like a year later, we seen him in Florida.
Crazy.
Yeah. He's like, hey, you were the realtor that knocked on my door. And Jay's like, yeah. He's like, I'm actually like ready to sell. And since I saw you here, why don't you come over? Well, it was $2.5 million.
That's insane.
And then they went and bought a $4 million house.
God.
And sold another. I mean, it was like $10 million worth of invoice.
Yep.
From that one door, and then see him in Florida.
Yep.
Like that was lucky.
Randomly.
Right? But if he didn't knock on the door, he could have never got lucky.
Correct.
And that also reminds me of how we got our 5-plex.
Okay, tell me about that.
So it's just like, I'm going to just DM on Facebook everybody who owns a multifamily in Waconia.
Yep.
And just like copy paste. I like literally in the tax record, look them up on Facebook, DM. And like, I didn't get a response for like 2 months. And then we just suddenly one day he was like, hey, I've been thinking about this. It's like, here I'm thinking that was a complete waste of time.
And then bang.
Hey, I'm thinking about this. I think I'd be interested at the right price, right?
Yep.
But we ended up getting it for a really good deal.
I guess the long story short here is that like if you put yourself out there, like Sam said, you put yourself in a position to get lucky, because a lot of our deals, you look back and you're like, holy crap, how did that actually happen?
Yeah.
Like that's insane.
Well, my first sale in real estate, I'll never forget it. Like I'm brand new. I don't know what I'm doing at all. And I just like they're like my team at the time. I was on a team for a year. Was like, hey, do you want to host this house open? I'm like, sure. So I showed up at my open house and an older couple walks through and I just did like my thing, like, hey, what are you looking for? Yada, yada. And then like 2 days later, I sold them a house. And I still, not that house, a different house. I still laugh. I said that to this day was the easiest sale I've ever made.
Yes.
Like that doesn't happen.
Yep.
Like you have to make effort.
God, my first sale was the same exact
That's
way.
the same way.
God, Sam, I got my license and Sam said, here's a phone number. Call this lady. I called her, set an appointment, sold her the second house I looked at.
And you were like, this is great.
It was the easiest thing in the world. I mean, obviously, I went out of my way to try to wreck that sale by accident.
Totally, because like there were like legitimate inspection items instead of just like asking for them. You like were like, oh my gosh, she's not gonna buy the house.
It was freaking nuts.
Trying to talk her out of it, like
it was, and all I had to do was just write it down, and the seller just signed it.
Side lesson: don't ever work with a brand new agent.
God, don't be stupid. Like
Don't
honestly,
do it.
I don't care if they're your child or whatever. Like, and they say they're being coached by the team lead because that's how they always get it by. Don't worry, they're being observed by their team leader. That team leader is not observing them. Okay.
No, that team leader is there to step in when crisis comes.
Absolute utter crisis, and it's mostly too late. Like you've already signed the paperwork, you've already screwed it up, they've already canceled a deal because that agent has like this skewed perception of what's actually happening. They think that everything is like exploding and they're destroying everything when it's
Also,
really not a big deal.
You guys don't see this. This is really important. There's ways your agent can screw you over behind the scenes that you don't even know about.
You have no idea.
Just in the way they interact with the other realtor.
Yep.
Like I I had put a house that I was supposed to come on the market, temporarily not available. The seller's just delaying. And there's a apparently really interested buyer, and his realtor just won't stop bugging me. Like, he sent me like 15 messages. Instead of just telling his buyers, like, be cool, it'll come back on the market eventually. He keeps being like, my buyers would like an explanation. My buyers want to know when this is coming for sale. My buyers want to know, are you selling this behind the scenes? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't care when this comes back on the market. I ain't doing a deal with you.
Right.
So your buyers that want this so bad because you can't manage them now, it's just like, no, we're not working together.
Yep. Yeah, there's this extreme filtering process that needs to happen between consumer and on the other end where things are actually conveyed in a way that makes sense, right? So in this case, this agent just needs to be your friend.
Right.
That's it. He needs to be somebody that you want to get a hold of because there's a soothing feeling of somebody who's going to take care of this and make a nice transition for your sellers. And it's really counterintuitive because you think you can jam somebody into the wall, but they just freaking ignore you.
I just told him, I said, your buyers are going to have to wait.
Yeah.
Stop talking to me.
And now you're going to have to get lucky.
Yeah.
That
Like,
no
you'll
one
have
else
to be
shows
my
up.
only offer.
Yep. And no one else shows up, and you're going to, it's so those types of things where people think that the real estate market is a different way than it is. It's literally about relationships and about getting people to like you and want to hang out with you. Across the whole level, not only your consumers, but the listing agent, buyer's agents, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. So we digress,
vendors.
but I mean, like,
Forgot about
okay,
that.
what are the top like 3 or 4 actions that people should be taking in this market?
Well, I think door knocking is a really, really good choice.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's all about doing. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but since this started and the realtors are slow, like everyone is like posting on Facebook suddenly,
Yep.
pretending. Jay's like, everyone's pretending they're busy.
Yep.
It's like, you're not busy. Everybody knows it.
Yeah, and you should be busy just explaining things that you're working through. That's what I've been trying to do and share with people. It's like,
Yeah.
as I'm exploring different ways to manage this market, which has been honestly a lot of fun. And that's the difference between somebody who's been around and managed their business well, is that we can face this with a lot of exploratory and like, where are we going to grab market share throughout this? And so if you're following me, and that's why I've been doing these podcasts, is that like I'm exploring how to like find market share in this business right now. Because things are crazy and there's a lot of other agents staring at a wall wondering where they're going to pay their next freaking mortgage bill.
Yeah. So I think door knocking is huge because getting face to face with people is the most effective thing you can do.
That's if you're getting started. If you want advice about door knocking, is door knocking places that you know about, and you're hunting for phone numbers and email addresses. Phone numbers are primarily important.
We had a couple agents on our team go out, and it was phenomenal because people were like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here." Like, they want their house is their biggest asset. Like, what's going on with the market? What's the deal?
Yep.
You know, we might want to sell next year. Great. Now, like, you're no longer a person who's calling them on the phone. Like, you're a person in the community that they live in.
And door knocking is a long-term burn. Okay, we tell these like miracle stories about you knock on someone's door and they're like, "Yeah, we're moving. We found that." That's like a diamond, right? If you go hunting for diamonds, you'll find one in 1,000, right? So knock 1,000 doors, say the right thing every single time, and you might find a diamond. But they're more farmed. So like when I was door knocking heavily almost 4 or 5 years ago now, I'm still converting those leads today.
They're calling you like, "Hey, we talked way back when, like, we're ready now."
Yeah, and I've been nurturing them over those years.
If you give them something to stick on their refrigerator or whatever, like, just leave them with something.
Well, and you have to connect with them.
Yeah.
Emails are great. They get on my drips and, my blogs that I send out. They're going to see those, and that actually works. Mm-hmm. But it's a long-term burn of just like being vulnerable and just saying the actual things that's going on in the marketplace, because that's all people need to know is the truth so that they can make the best decision they possibly can.
Yeah. So my number 2 effort is just like, if you're making, 20 to 30 minutes of phone calls in a regular market, like hour and a half right now, 2 hours, just like quadrupling down.
Yeah. And just doing the right things and then actually learning, like finding the solutions, not the problems. We can get really stuck on spinning on the problems. I don't know, the Fed's going freaking crazy. This is happening. Like that's fixating on the problems, not the solutions. The solutions are what bring people the ability to move.
And you had said something that was really good. Like, if they don't talk to you about the market when you're prospecting a phone lead, like, don't even talk about it.
Shut up. They don't care.
Do you want to buy or sell real estate?
If the answer is yes, let's do that in the most effective way possible.
Right. So, okay, what's the last one?
What do you mean?
Like, what's the last thing that you would have somebody do if they're trying to build their business in this market?
Build their business right now?
Open houses?
Open houses are they're pretty rad, but you have to be pretty bold, and you need to be careful about the way you do those things. The most success I've had from open houses is you get a sign in. You have to get a sign in. If you don't sign in at open houses, you can hit the freaking pavement. Like, get out.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. I don't. So get a sign in. I digress on that. And then lightly find out what they're looking for, and then just send it to them.
Right, because like if someone won't sign in, then they're literally just telling you they're going into a stranger's house and they don't want any accountability for the fact that they were there, which is super weird.
It's creepy at a minimum, and it puts the listing agent and the person holding open house at a really vulnerable spot where you're no longer in control of the flow of people in and out of your house, and I think that's just not a good place for anybody.
Yeah, like they won't give you their name and their email address.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. And it's not hard to put a fake freaking email in.
No.
Right? So this person is going out of their way to just...
I'm not identifying myself as I walk through this home.
Be combative, and that's fine, but not in somebody's private residence.
Right. So anyways, yeah, I think any new agents should be doing... When I started the team I was on, you were required 3 out of 4 weekends a month to be in an open.
That should be.
It wasn't optional. And so I've been thinking about that. Like if you're not meeting sales, like that should be your benchmark.
Yep.
And it wasn't 1, it was like 2. Like we were going from 1 to the other.
I didn't take a day off in real estate for, 4 or 5 years when I was starting.
We didn't either for forever.
You just grind. And we're getting back to that now.
Yeah, we finally got to the point where we were like, Sundays are our day. And now it's like, if you want to go out on a Sunday, like, let's go.
Yep.
Get in my car.
Yeah, I haven't worked a Sunday in a very, very long time. I mean, I'll be there, over the phone or via email if we need to negotiate a deal, of course. But we've got this really great guy who'll go show you houses for you.
Yep, he's awesome.
Yep. But yeah, I guess we are getting to the point where I'll take I did a list appointment on a Sunday a few weeks ago and just totally do it again.
Yep.
Yeah, so that should be the number one thing. But I think the most important thing you can do is get out there and learn. Learn.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You never stop learning, never stop digging. The information's there. We're not reinventing the wheel.
And just go for it. You know what I mean? Like run weird ads. I used to just run like ads on Facebook that said, I used to draw a circle.
Do you own a home in this circle?
Do you own a home in this circle? And then you would advertise specifically that circle of people. So everybody who sees a freaking ad owns a house in there.
They're like me.
And then you DM, hit them up, and you'd be surprised that all of a sudden you're in listing appointments.
Yep.
I got in a $2.5 million house that way sometime. It was fucking crazy. Literally, it was on Lake Minnewaska. The dude hit me up. He was like, yeah, I am trying to sell this thing. And he let me into his house, and it was insane.
The other thing is that
$3 million now.
If you have a listing that you're proud of, like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Shout that thing to the rooftops. Like, I don't care where you're going to post it on your Facebook 100 times. Post it, send it to every email, text it to all your friends. Like, you need to be relentless about showing the work that you're proud of to get more of it.
Yeah. And be there for your consumers, for Pete's sakes. I sent a referral off to somebody this week. This is a story. And it's a nice relo, and relo is pretty obvious. When you connect with a relocation buyer, they don't know where you're at. They need you because they need to know where to be. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. They need to know about the communities, the school district, where the amenities are, where all that stuff is. They don't understand that. And so they're going to need you to sit down and go through that. If you talk to me, like, I'm going to sell you on the Southwest Metro because it's awesome here. That's why I live here.
Right.
And you're going to know where I want to be. And so I sent this referral off to this gal, and she said, no, we don't really need to do anything because you're thinking about moving in March, so we'll start looking at houses in March. like leave me alone until then. It's like, Jesus, do your freaking job, you guys, and like actually add value to people.
Yep.
So that's probably the number one thing is take care of the people in front of you. Don't be afraid to make those phone calls. I'm having to make phone calls every Monday and Tuesday to the listings that I'm holding right now that our traffic is lower than it normally is, and we're having to redo strategies. Like, I'm here, and you got to service your consumers that are there in front of you.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So that's it, you guys. I don't know what we really covered other than like lead flow and like Zillow and stuff like that, but I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah. I just think that, like I said, my one takeaway for anybody right now is just like, give yourself a lot of chances to get lucky.
Yeah.
Just do shit.
Yep. Make weird posts on Facebook, hunt people down. Like, you never know. The worst thing they can do is ignore you. And I get ignored all the time.
They're never going to use you anyways. So
yep,
it
correct.
doesn't matter. Like, people are like, oh, I don't want to scare them off. It's like,
dude,
scare them.
Go for it.
Scare them off. They weren't going to use you. They're not your people.
Like, dude, whatever.
They're going to use their aunt or something.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And all of a sudden somebody will pop up and they'll use you.
yep. Well,
All right.
all
Good
right,
luck, you
guys.
guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll probably follow this up with a market update pretty soon. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about Carver County, what's actually happening. There's a lot of good things that are happening right now. The market's actually moving. It's just moving in a very different way. So stay tuned for that.
Yep. All right, guys. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.